All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant, and broadcast journalist O'Connor.
I'm here. I'm here again. Loving it. Living large. We've got a pretty action-packed show.
Yeah, no, so we're gonna talk about the Libertarian Party rally that's happening.
Yeah,
And I think it is fair to call Libertarian. They're kind of distancing themselves from it now. They just put out a statement about it. Like,
oh, did they?
Yeah, they did. Basically, like, well, we're sponsoring it. We're not organizing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some controversial figures there.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And we'll of course talk about the China balloon.
We've got to talk about that, man. Oh my God. The memes were fire about that thing, man.
Yeah, no, it was good meme week. Appreciate the memes better than the cop memes that were a couple weeks prior, you know.
Sure. The yes, I don't even want to say it. Everybody knows.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know, and that's enough.
Yeah, right. So we'll talk about those, and then if hopefully we can get to the issue of Fourth Amendment rights for students.
Yeah, we got to. People are known to me. We've got a controversial issue. We're going to have to treat it sensitively because there's young people involved. We're not going to be name dropping, but we're going to talk about a situation that I'm pretty uncomfortable here. Like I'm pretty upset with petty tyranny. But as always,
of course, that's what it is. And you get people who want to exercise a tiny bit of power and
make a rule. You got to follow the rule. Like, stop it.
Yeah. So it'd be great to talk about that. So in a few seconds, we'll cut to our radio show. We'll do the intro. Y'all know how it goes down. Leave your comments, say hi, participate in the show. You know what it is. So we'll start the intro at 2:30. And we'll go into the show. 5.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. I am here, and I'm excited for another show with you.
Absolutely. So we are back here. We're doing the live show Tuesday evening, but we're on WYSL Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. If you guys are listening there too, appreciate you. Glad you're here. Glad you're listening. You want to participate in the live show, you got to do Tuesdays at 9 p.m. That's where we are, online only. You can leave your comments there. So we got a few folks listening. Thank you for being here, whoever's listening tonight. Got a good comment, leave it out there. We may read it on there. So we're going to talk about a couple different issues. We're going to talk about this rage against the machine. Was it Rage Against the War Machine?
Rage Against the War Machine. I mean, all too often in our society, we've got a group of people that rage against precisely one half of the machine. But what it appears to me is, while there may be some reason to be skeptical, there appears to be an actual rally, multi-party, multifaceted people standing up against the Ukraine war.
The Ukraine war. Interesting. But the
okay, that's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. The Russia incursion against the Ukraine.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So
no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So this rally, Rage Against the War Machine. It's supposedly a rally that is aimed at trying to be anti-war, aimed at trying to make sure that the U.S. doesn't get involved in that conflict. And you can read the goals and say, I mean, I almost put out this inflammatory description of it in the video, which is, like it's a rally that it's full of Marxists, literal Russian shills, and an actual child predator. That those are some of the folks on the speaker list. So you have quite the collection there. That's really what the controversy is it's some of the speakers that they're folks in the anti-war movement who they don't trust their bona fides for a number of reasons.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. I've got a list of the speakers here. Ron Paul's going to be speaking at it. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be speaking at it. Dennis Kucinich, guys, who's a radical liberal, semi-commie kind of guy, but also true to his ideals. Unlike your Bernie Sanders, who seems to kind of sell out periodically. Scott Horton, who's been a dedicated anti-war activist. Ann Wright, Chris Hedges, David Swanson, Daniel McAdams, the executive director of the Ron Paul Institute and the co-host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, Garland Nixon, Max Blumenthal, Anaya Parampil Supreme, Jill Stein, who's pretty popular in left-wing circles. She's a former Green Party candidate for president. Tara Reid. I'm pretty sure, is that Tara Reid the same Tara Reid that accused Joe Biden of?
It is one and the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that
also has done some work for the Russian state, apparently.
Okay.
Too.
And my personal friend and interesting political activist and campaigner, Diane Sayer. Now, she does kind of go on some rants that I'm not sure. Whatever. I love Diane.
Yeah, Tim, you don't have to give him full endorsement. She is interesting to talk to. I've never talked to her, but I've listened to your conversations. She's interesting. It's not
really one of the most controversial guys, of course, as always. Scott Ritter, when he makes news, he makes controversial news.
Tim, why is his inclusion controversial? I'll give you two reasons.
There's actually there's two reasons. He has two big ones. Convictions for inappropriate behavior on the internet with underage, with police officers who were claiming to be underage females.
Yeah, dude sent naked videos of himself to what he thought was a 15-year-old and also tried to meet up with them on more than one occasion, years apart.
10 years apart almost.
Yeah.
So
it's not like a one weird accidental thing.
So I look, this is going to be a weird conversation for a second because you're going to have a hard time forgiving me. But what was he convicted of?
I mean, he was I forget what the actual charge was, but it was basically like in the exposure thing because he sent a lewd video of himself naked
to a police officer, which even though the police officer claimed she was 15, and look, it's reprehensible.
Dude, the excuse, I knew it was actually an older person.
That it was not.
Yeah, no,
weak.
I knew weak. No, it's gross. And further again, and then by the way, this guy he was uninvited and then he was re-invited and it looks like the chair Angela McArdle had invited him, but then she's like, I didn't really invite him. There's just a bunch of speakers there. I wish you wouldn't show up. What are we gonna do about it?
What are we?
It's
Diane collaborates with Scott regularly. He's always come off as incredibly pompous to me and somewhat off-putting. That doesn't mean he's wrong. He has a very interesting.
Should we read his tweet about the Russia situation? It's a real banger. So he's responding to someone. This is a speaker at an anti-war rally. I don't claim to be anti-war. All right, starting off strong. Never did. There are rabid dogs out there, and we need Atticus Finch to shoot them. I do, however, object to the senseless shooting of healthy dogs. Ukraine is a rabid dog. Russia is Atticus Finch. Thus ends my lesson.
That's a little pro-Russian, don't you think?
Yeah, just a smidge. Just a tiny bit, man.
Yeah.
Like, and when we
I-
get to the crux of it, like, there are some legit anti-war speakers at the, like, I understand that, you know, like, to me, I see, I know there's some folks, I think, like, some of the, like, the criticism against, like, Tulsi Gabbard, like, oh, she's a Russian. I don't really buy it with her. Like,
Right.
there, you know, aspects of her politics I don't care for, but, like, I don't really think she's on, you know, the Russian dime in the same way that some people actually are. Like, there's some, like, actual Russian, like, affiliated media speaking there.
Oh, is
You
there
know,
like which one do you know?
and I got the list in front of me, but there a lot of folks who are like actually paid by, like, they're like RT people. Let's see, Jackson Hinkle, I think, is one of them.
Okay.
Garland Nixon worked for, like, Sputnik and RT.
All right.
Daniel McAdams is an RT contributor. He's the Ron Paul Institute guy, and we can get into the Ron Paul Institute stuff, like, separately. But
Sure.
but yeah, like, there's a lot of these folks who are, and this is what I think is really important, because what always happens in a lot of anti-war movements is that you get painted as, like, oh, you're just for the enemy, you're just for the other side, like, you're not really, like, genuinely anti-war. And there's a, like, usually it's coming from the neocons, like, this push to conflate these two positions, right? Like, you see that a lot in, like, Vietnam, right? Like, in the
Right.
Vietnam situation, like, oh, you're not really against American intervention abroad, you're just pro-communist, you're pro-Viet Cong, whatever, right? And that's the people would purposely conflate those positions. In this case, you do have people who are saying stuff like what Scott Ritter said, who said, you know, Russia is Atticus Finch and Ukraine is a rabid dog. Like, no, man, like, the Russia invasion is bad. If you want to be anti-war, be anti-war. Russia is the bad guy. There can be more than one bad guy in this situation. And there's this, like, weird approach that, like, some folks in the libertarian sphere take to American foreign intervention, where you're so consumed with, like, understanding that American foreign intervention is bad that you start, like, thinking, like, okay, well, America thinks Russia's bad, so maybe Russia's good. America thinks China's bad, so maybe it's good, and maybe Venezuela's okay. And the Ron Paul Institute does that, and it drives me bananas. When, like, every time there'd be, like, a protest in Hong Kong, they'd be like, that's probably the American government, like, literally repeating, like, the Chinese government Communist Party line. It's so weird.
Because I think it's because we're trapped in this either or thing, like, that people's mindsets are broken, right? They lack the ability to grab onto nuance, and nuance doesn't sell, Kevin, right? Like, so if I don't say Ukraine is filled with white supremacists, that's why Russia's there, or I don't say Russia is the evil empire threatening to spread communism across all of Europe. If I don't take one of those two positions, I'm a psychopath. Like, everybody thinks I'm the crazy one, and it's a battle I've been fighting my whole life.
Yeah.
But as I become more libertarian-ish or stronger in my libertarian beliefs, it's a battle I fight regularly now. You know,
Yeah.
like,
So,
so
like,
you want this? So you want to kill puppies? Like,
yeah, right. Like,
no,
you don't. Yeah, people try to, like, push these other positions on you all the time, like, because I'd be like, well, you know, Russia's, like, bad. Like, it is a bad government. They're an authoritarian government. They're, like, the opposite of libertarian, and we know so, both because, like, of the self-apparent policies there, and also, like, the Libertarian Party of Russia makes some really good points about how bad their government is.
You can trust them.
And they should not have invaded Ukraine. They seem like, in some cases, they're on a genocidal, like, mission in some of those areas. Like, that is not, like, an exaggeration. Is how they've treated some of this stuff. The Ukrainian government is not perfect. They do have problems with corruption. They do have problems with, like white nationalists there too. Like, it is a thing. And I can say all that and say, like, well, maybe we shouldn't be sending them a whole bunch of money and weapons, and maybe it's not worth the risk of getting involved. And that's my anti-war position, is that, like, the cost of escalation is too high. And, like, even if, like, it serves this short-term need to try to combat the advance of Russia, there's a massive risk, and it might not be worth the risk of the US government getting involved and escalating into a much bigger conflict, because war itself is immoral. And that's how I would love to see the Libertarian Party approach this rally. And I think they missed on this one by conflating and associating themselves with the pro-war side of just the other side of the conflict.
The pro Russia side, right? Is what you're
Pro-Russia
feeling?
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can sympathize with that. I guess I wasn't framing it that way when I was looking at it overall, because they have a list of demands that, as a libertarian, I
Yeah,
kind
you
of
want to read out? Do you have that in front of you? Do you
yeah, I
wanna
do
read 'em?
actually have
Go
it
ahead,
in
go ahead.
front of me. Their list of demands for the rage against the war machine. Not one more penny for war in Ukraine. Now, the feasibility of that is unfair. We can't just, you know, I hate that we're sending weapons there. I hate it. I hate that there's a war going on, but not one more penny. Okay, that I turn in my libertarian card a little bit. Okay, negotiate peace. That's number 2. I find that to be like that should have been number 1. Let's negotiate peace. Um, and I've heard stories, like you see tweets and you see people on the inside saying, like, we're trying to negotiate peace. Like Joe Biden has said, give up 20% of Ukraine to Russia, and that was unacceptable.
The Ukrainians understandably don't want to do that.
They
Like, why the
don't
heck
want
should
to
I?
do that. They don't want to, and I don't
I mean, I get
blame
like
them.
if someone invaded, like, upstate New York, I might be like, I don't know, like I got friends and family up there. I don't really want to like just give that up to the rogue Canadians.
Yeah, well, like when they took over the White House, like they if they decide to take upstate New York, they can win.
Yeah, never again, Canada.
Never again.
200 years ago.
Here's like so the list of demands is good, right? Stop the war inflation. And guys, this devaluation of the currency that's been going on for decades. People have been robbed blind. We've been robbed of technological advancements. I joke about flying cars, but we should be so much further ahead technologically than we are. The devaluation of the currency contributes to that. The war inflation, all of these things that create problems for the middle class and poor people in our country are brought on by exuberant spending, right? Disband NATO as a demand that we don't hope to achieve. I like the notion of saying, hey, NATO is, whatever. I like the position. I don't love it, but I like it. Number 5, global nuclear de-escalation. And I don't think that the mainstream media talks about the fact that we are playing patty cake with the nuclear power. We're playing nuclear war is going to devastate all of us if, in fact, it happens. There was a time, Kevin, I just want to throw this out there, that the promise of Reagan and de-escalating the end of the Cold War, like we were freed from fears of Russian or nuclear, mutually assured destruction. What a terrifying thing to be put into a kid's head, right? So I like global nuclear de-escalation. I like the Star Wars program, even if it didn't really work, right? The strategic knocking down other people's nuclear weapons and having defense mechanisms that could protect us from nuclear weapons. Here's one that everybody should kind of, slash the Pentagon budget. Half of the discretionary budget goes to the Pentagon. The military budget is $857 billion per year. And guys, believe it or not, the Pentagon just failed its 5th straight audit. The Pentagon can only account for 39% of its $3.5 trillion in assets. Cut the military budget in half, return those funds to the American people. Guys, we're in so much debt when we say things like that. I'm like, I don't know. How do we return them to anybody? It's like all made up money now. Abolish the CIA and the military industrial deep state. This is where we kind of, it gets a little wild for me.
You want to abolish the CIA? Tim, I knew you weren't a real libertarian.
No,
I knew it. You're admitting it here on the show.
I would love to abolish the CIA and the military industrial deep state. But then there's still did they kill John F. Kennedy or didn't they? And have they done some really crappy things all over the world? Absolutely. So can we abolish them? Yeah, I'd love that. Okay. So their demands are good. It's just, can we abolish NATO? Can we abolish the CIA and the military industrial deep state? I mean, I'm sure we can if we put our minds to it. And it would be abolishing the CIA, I think, probably would be a pretty net positive for the world. They got a kind of a virtue signal, right? Abolish war and empire. war and empire subjugate billions of people around the world to enrich a small group of elites. It's hard to argue with that. In just the past 2 decades, the U.S. has waged and backed wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Palestine, Yemen, Ukraine, and other countries. End all U.S. wars and regime change. Stop all military aid to other countries. End drone strikes. Close all U.S. military bases abroad. Bring all U.S. troops home. Build a world that guarantees every person freedom from war and empire in place of the collapsing U.S. hegemonic world order. It's beautiful, right? Like I say,
I'm going to say that one, though.
What's
That's
that?
what Russia wants.
That's
Want
what
the U.S.
Russia wants.
weaker.
Not,
I mean, but legit though, like I have conflicted feelings about some of that stuff, like because part of me is like, yeah, man, like our footprint is way too broad. The United States tries to do like a lot. It tries to do way too much to project power. It is very, very, very expensive,
yeah,
both financially and morally, to try to maintain global hegemony through force, right?
it is. It's
at-
it's ridiculous. But
You know, my conflict about that is like, well, there are countries, bad nations like China, who would also try to do that same thing in the power vacuum and would probably do worse. So I
right.
get that argument. I don't have a good counter argument for that because I'm like, yeah, I know, like,
I guess that's why I get right there, and I called it a virtue signal, right? Like,
yeah,
and guys, like, here's another reality, right? If we withdraw all of our foreign military support and bases, if you think our dollar they have devalued our dollar now, one of the things that backs the value of the U.S. dollar is our ability to make sure that goods flow freely in a relative sense throughout the entire world.
yeah.
And
I mean,
the
that's
Saudi
some of that
Arabian
is
oil.
through like, yeah, the threat of force. That is,
Yes,
that's
the
part
threat
of
of
it.
force
And
backs
I
our dollar, and it's
Yeah.
gross, right? It's gross, but it's real.
It is gross. Yeah, like I want to acknowledge, like, again, I'm generally like in favor of like winding that power down, but and there are ways to do it through like NATO too. It's like, all right, like Europe should be responsible for its own defense. We shouldn't be footing the bill for a bunch of that stuff. Like they can figure that they have their own self interest. There's a reason why like other countries like Finland want to join NATO now too. It's because like, oh, they see a reason for like collective defense
Profit.
agreements that are totally understandable.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe the U.S. just shouldn't be paying for the whole thing.
Honestly, we should charge Canada like a tax for them just being next to us because they rely on our
They're
military.
free riders. They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, that's how they afford guys. That's how they afford their healthcare, their free healthcare system
Yeah.
is the strength of the U.S. military industrial complex.
Yeah, but we Tim, I hate to cut this out. We do have to hit the break for the
All right.
radio show. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. We're out. Tim, we can jump right back in too. Like I
still
want to
got two
disrupt the
more.
momentum, but yeah. I mean, we do have to take the breaks though. Sorry,
Yeah,
folks.
that's fine.
And
I
we'll make
got
sure
two
we
more, and
acknowledge
look,
his comments to Steve.
he is crazy. No, wait, I am
Tim
crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
just talked about myself in the third person.
Not all proxy wars are good. No, some are bad, as it turns out.
I would be not unafraid to say most of them are bad.
Yeah, and Betty, haven't we as human beings grown past war as a problem solver? I'll be optimistic for a second. We are much better at it, or not better at. We are doing a lot less conflict than we used to, but not fully past it.
I think we've matured emotionally on some level. Like I don't see when I was young, there was a distinct I would almost call it like quasi bloodlust, right? Like there was this desire to go out and fight wars and come back a hero, and it wasn't uncommon for people to view the military as that. And this was still in the wake of Vietnam, and as the realities of Vietnam became apparent, that people came back crippled and that people came back mentally and hurt. Like I think we kind of woke up that war can be devastating.
Yeah. No, 100%. All right, so we'll go back in at 25. We can keep talking about NATO, this rally specifically, any of that stuff. Steve Becker's asking about the balloon. Steve, we're gonna get to the balloon. Don't worry. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the balloon. That was the best meme of the week. What we talking?
Oh, it was meme central. It was so
Yeah.
good.
That was a good stuff, but so well, all angles, the warmonger angle, the people freaking out, and also the F-22. We'll talk about all that.
Yeah, let's do it. There's a lot
And
to unpack there, a real lot, and we won't even be able to get to it all.
probably not, but we're gonna head back in 5, 4. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Tim, the alleged broadcast journalist O'Connor.
Alleged. I'm broadcasting right now, brother. I'm
That's
doing
true.
it. I'm on the radio. I'm on the internets. I'm on the YouTubes. I'm on the Twitters. I'm all over the place, man.
Everywhere.
I'm like everywhere.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the Rage Against the War Machine. It's kind of a nifty name. It has some really interesting people, and then some not so interesting people. Like I am in contact with one of the organizers that if people want to go to this thing, I could probably get you a free bus ride, but you've got to agree to certain standards of behavior and certain offers of assistance, and then you get a free bus ride to a really cool rally. So DM me or something like that. But we got through number 8 of the demands of the Rage Against the War Machine to abolish the war and empire. After that, we get into one. I think that there's almost universal popular support for talking about a restoration of civil liberties and ending the mass surveillance that was brought about by the Patriot Act that Edward Snowden highlighted and that Julian Assange spread information about, that we as American people are literally being spied on by our government nearly constantly. And my FBI agent right now is like, Tim, it's okay. We're really not out to get you. But this is real. Like, the Patriot Act is a train wreck. It creates a lot of problems. It's an invasion of your privacy, and I don't know. It makes me very uncomfortable. And then, of course, free Julian Assange is demand number 10. I don't know why they didn't include Edward Snowden. Like, he should be basically exonerated, or whatever you do when you have his charges dropped.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that one is interesting. Like specifically Julian Assange, and not like, I mean, there's a handful of other like whistleblowers that you could mention, Edward Snowden including.
They did kind of toss in that throwaway line, and all political prisoners. So like, I don't know what that means. Like, free the Russian oligarch gun dealers too. I don't know. Like, we already did that. So I guess, I don't know. What do we do there? So that one's not perfectly well communicated.
Now, do you think they should have mentioned something about how they should have demanded an end to Russian aggression too?
Because so that's where you and I had a little disconnect. Like, yes, demand the end to Russian aggression. I did not realize that there was a little bit of a pro-Russian angle to this, and then there was a little bit of defending Scott Ritter on my part, but not from being a reprehensible person, but that he has a legit anti-war track record. But it was always kind of grandiose too. Like,
he says, "I don't claim to be anti-war."
I know.
He's right there.
And he comes back with Atticus Finch, some sort of what kind? That's bizarro world analogy. Like, there's something wrong with that guy. So that's it. That's the end of it. That's the end of it with Scott Ritter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a few of them, and again, I kind of mentioned like the Ron Paul Institute stuff is weird too. Like, and this is because I was a big fan of Ron Paul. Like, some of the stuff, like, it bugs me though. This specifically, he got weird about the Ukraine stuff in 2014, and also like every time something happens, like when stuff was going on in Venezuela, he's like, "Oh, that's only the CIA." Like, but they're just trying to interfere with a free democratic government down there. And like, what, bro? It's a communist country. What the heck are you guys talking about?
There's things
bizarre.
I pay attention to, things I don't pay attention to. Ron Paul, and my admiration for him started when he ran for president, ended when he didn't get the nomination, and then kind of over the years I've picked up more about him. So, and then my focus was on Rand Paul, who disappointed me with his treatment of Edward Snowden, like his statements, his political statements about him, even though he is still more liberty minded than most other Republicans. Like I get it. So
Yeah.
whatever. And his Patriot, Rand Paul likes the Patriot Act, or at least used to. Okay, when they first broke news about the Patriot Act, Rand Paul was all over the news saying, this is national security. We need this. When they're telling you that they're spying, you guys aren't supposed to know that. I mean, that's kind of literally what he was saying. And it really bothered me. And I haven't quite gotten over it.
I don't know. I feel like he was against the Patriot Act, but I don't remember.
He crapped all over Edward Snowden. That I
He,
remember.
I mean, he might have done that, but I feel like he was against Patriot. Didn't he filibuster about that?
I could maybe my emotional connection to the concept that Edward Snowden was a legit whistleblower.
Yeah.
That I caught a news blurb about him bashing Edward Snowden has shaded my memory. When you get to be my age, just
run it all together. Yeah, no worries. It happens. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Republican inconsistency on that stuff. Again, you got to be careful when you invest too much in political heroes, because
Thomas Massey hasn't betrayed me yet.
I don't know. He's funny. He had a good pun about the Chinese weather balloon.
There we go. The Chinese spy balloon.
What did he say? He said something like, "Oh, if Biden shoots it down, it'll be like the most action he's taken on inflation during his presidency."
Ooh,
something like that.
Burn. That's a slick burn. And let's make a prediction about Biden rambling on incoherently tonight about inflation, and just saying platitudes, speaking in platitudes.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing the State of the Union. I see Twitter is already playing drinking games over it. Again, if you're listening to us on WYSL on Thursday, we record this Tuesday nights. So that's why State of the Union is going on live while we're recording this.
And we have a pretty good crowd tonight. So maybe there is a legitimate,
I literally, I forgot it was happening.
It's, as everyone knows, I've mentioned, I do listen to talk radio. So it's plastered all over talk radio. It's a nonstop barrage of conjecture about what he's going to say. And then highlighting his tweets of the past week about how there's never been a workforce like there is now. And it's like, well, we're still kind of about COVID level, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Women are in the workforce. And it's like, okay, well, is that a good thing, or are they being forced into work because of economic hardship and the devaluation of the currency? So I'm old fashioned. If women and have a family structure and they don't want to work, and now they have to work because of financial hardship, is that a win for feminism? I don't know.
You heard it here, folks. Tim saying that women should stay in the home. Wow.
And the kitchen.
Make sure you call the state. No,
just kidding.
Send your angry emails too.
I do all the cooking in my house. Not all the cooking. I do most of the cooking in my house.
No, but I know it. But people do have to struggle there. Man, my wife and I this past week actually just did an analysis. All right, well, how much are we actually spending on groceries? What do we need the budget for? We looked at we're spending $800 a month of groceries. Holy crap!
Yeah.
It's tripled in the last 2 years, and not just because I had a kid either. That definitely contributed a bit.
2 ounces of food a day. That's all that kid needs, man. Don't worry.
It's the diapers that get you.
It is too. That's true.
They go through a lot of them. They're expensive, but it isn't just that though. It is other stuff. We looked at the food stuff, even just grocery stores specifically. So we're usually okay, Costco's always got the diapers in it, but but just
right.
the Wegmans in all of these situations, holy cow, we're spending a ton. It's ridiculous, So is Biden going to be able to do anything about that? And don't get me in for you Biden fans, all 2 of you out there listening, the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't have much faith in that having worked.
Oh my God, it didn't. It just, you could tell it wasn't going to work. You can't just virtue signal and spend money. That's not how you combat inflation. How you do it is you constrict demand on poor people and middle class people. That's how you do it. Make sure that their lives are more expensive. Then you combat inflation. Raise their interest rates on their credit cards and their home mortgages. That's how you combat inflation.
Cool.
Simple.
Successful. Yeah. Good job, Joe Biden.
They're basically telling people that, and people are ignoring them, saying, "Yeah, we need the Inflation Reduction Act." It's like we need a law, and I'm like, they're telling you they're going to make your life more expensive, and that's going to combat inflation. It might work, but
Like
like
it
you
it,
have
it is
lost.
it's sort of a way to do it, right? You know?
You've lost stuff. You've lost economic liberty, and so I get sad, and a part of my brain starts spinning in circles when I can't get past that stuff. We digressed away from the balloon, though. The most important event of
Yeah. Speaking, well, let me get to this comment first. Hold on.
okay,
Thomas says the DNCR and CR government has been giving preference to big businesses and underserving American voters for more than 40 years. Voting third parties, the only nonviolent way to make sure government serves us. Yeah, no, understand, man. Like
I'm with you.
that's part of it. You know, I know like sometimes I come off as like, pro big business, but there's definitely a regulatory capture, a rent seeking, you know, proclivity in the American corporate culture.
Yeah, regulatory
And
capture, right? That's the product that they sell, right? They sell regulations to protect their market share. The government, the agents of the government sell regulations to protect big businesses'
yeah,
market share, and
and
that's real.
yeah, no, unfortunately there's a lot of that, and yeah, voting third party is probably the only way you're going to address it. I don't know. Maybe there's some good Republicans and Democrats out there who are legitimate about that issue, but you always run that like bootlegs and Baptist scenario, right? Bootleggers and Baptists. You're not familiar with that. I know Tim knows what it is, but it's like, how did prohibition come about? There's the Baptist, the people who are like, oh, we've got to save the country, we've got to save people from alcoholism. And then there's the bootleggers who are like, yeah, save the country, wink wink.
And like,
And then
thank you.
as they're stocking up and building their supplies, so they know that they're going to make a ton off of the black market. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of like corporate regulatory power works. Except for it's all above board. It's not like they're making their product illegal. It's like, oh, regulators, please don't throw us in the briar patch, Mr. Government. And then suddenly, like they're able to charge higher for their products because they regulate the heck out of them. It eliminates all the marginal competitors, and they go home happy.
That's exactly it. The world should be more emotional about it, but we just let it go. We just let it happen. So this Chinese spy balloon, what drove me a little bit crazy is while I love conjecture, the amount of conjecture over the Chinese spy balloon reached, guys, some of you reached
Wow.
epic proportions with
There's so many
conjecture.
experts out there.
It's like it could already be armed with a nuclear weapon, and if we shoot it down, like, okay, just slow it down. Like China said, and like I'm not necessarily trusting China. They're like, it just blew off course. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And then like immediately it's like, well, 3 of them flew over when Trump was president. And nobody did nothing, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to make of this stuff. So I accepted a friend request from the Chinese spy balloon.
Oh, good. You are now friends with the Chinese
Well, and
spy
now he's
balloon.
dead. Thanks a lot,
Rest in
Joe
peace,
Biden.
Chinese spy balloon. I will miss your memes.
You and your violence.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. They with the balloon. It was funny. And I don't think we're gonna have time to get like into this fully. So we might have to save some of this for like the next segment. But
Sure.
the amount of like speculation from people who are like, oh man, like this is such a failure of the Biden administration, and they let this happen here, and then the comeback is like, well, this happened under Trump too, and like no one knew about it. All right, like
Okay.
so, yeah, like the reality is so much more like boring, it seems.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked up like, okay, what's the history of this stuff? Why are they doing it this way? Like, is this anything that is an actual threat? How would the military respond if there were an actual threat? Like, why might they let it just like go over the country? Like, we'll talk about all this stuff, but like everyone's just kind of using it for like stupid political points, as we do with just every situation now, every single time.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. It becomes, at what point is it just we're being played for fools and entertained by news, like
Yeah.
and manipulated through MK Ultra style programs with our emotional state. Like
Oh my
that's
goodness! All right, so Tim brought MK Ultra drink, but
just
no, Tim, I'm gonna cut you off. That not only because that's bonkers, but also because we actually have to go to a break.
all right.
Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right, we got this one from Patricia. It's the balloon. It's the balloon. Look at distraction.
Yeah,
Are we
yeah.
being distracted from something, Tim?
Well, it's like everything is a distraction from something else. Like China's legitimately got aims on Taiwan, right? Like
Yeah.
so the but the Chinese spy balloon, was it just? Couldn't it have just been a weather balloon? Couldn't it have just been my friend of a big fluffy white balloon flying over the country, like that got blown off course? Couldn't it have just been that?
Could have been. It probably was. It probably actually was. a spy
Well,
balloon.
they want to know whether it transmitted information back to China. It did, guys. Like I did that. Like
That's what a weather balloon does
that's
too. To be fair.
yeah, and yeah, could have taken some pictures of some of
Yeah.
our military installations. Yeah, I could have done that. Like,
Yeah. Well, all right.
guess
No,
what?
you know we're gonna go back because we're gonna keep talking about
Oh yeah.
this. So we might as well talk about it on there.
Yeah.
And so we'll go back in. Oh, hold on. I missed the window for a nice like even transition. So we're gonna go back at 41:30.
All right.
I got to math.
I'm losing my vibe about the balloon though, but I'll get it back. I'll get it
Yeah. It's, all right. We're gonna go back in 10. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
Chinese spy balloon. Tim?
Chinese spy balloon, yes.
Chinese spy balloon O'Connor.
Tim,
like that.
Chinese spy balloon friend O'Connor.
Yeah.
That's why we have him on today. He befriended the actual Chinese spy balloon.
He sent me a friend request. What am I gonna do? Like he could have just followed me on my Freedom Variant page, but he sent me a personal friend request.
Yeah, so so Tim has the inside scoop before the Chinese spy balloon's untimely demise. Although you were saying like maybe it is just a weather balloon. I don't know.
Maybe it's just a weather balloon. Maybe it sent pictures back to China of all over the country. But guess what? There's like, I don't know, 23,000 satellites that can read your car license plate up in outer space. They don't need a freaking weather balloon, man.
No.
It was weird that we couldn't just shoot it right down though. Like I didn't quite understand any of that.
Yeah. So
Pop that sucker.
From what I understand, there's like a couple different things going on. So like yes, they can use satellites. The U.S. military and all the intelligence services, they already take precautions against stuff that you can see from the air, right? Which is the same thing with the balloon, but because you are a lot closer to Earth, you're only 11 miles up versus however high a satellite is. Because you're a lot closer, you can take clearer, more detailed pictures of stuff. So if you want to do that, that's why they do that. It's also, as I understand, like kind of like a legal gray area where, if it's a device that isn't like controlled, like because they can sort of steer its direction a little bit, but not really.
Right.
They have that plausible deniability of like, oh, it just blew off course. Like we weren't really trying to go over your missile silos.
We're so sorry about that.
But the U.S. uses these too, I guess. But it's same thing where they'll send them way up. Most of the time, like because again, this has happened before. Most of the time, most people don't notice them. But China will send them over, India and the Philippines and Taiwan and all sorts of places. They'll do their thing. And then in terms of like why didn't the U.S. shoot it down? Like I think it's actually pretty believable. They didn't want to like shoot it down and one of a couple things happens. Either they shoot it down and it falls down and it hurts someone or damages some property, then everyone's mad, or they miss and cause damage that way. And I guess they're harder to take down than it seems. Like there's this situation where there's a Canadian balloon that was like about to fly into Russia, and Canada tried to shoot it down with like these 50 millimeter cannons and
Oof.
couldn't do it. Like
It-
shooting it up with those didn't deflate it fast enough for it to not fall, go into Russian territory. And this I guess a while ago, but so that's why they used the missile, the F-22, which has cost just a sickening amount of money for the U.S. government and for us taxpayers. Got its first confirmed kill with that balloon.
Yeah,
Um,
we couldn't. I think we should have captured it and held it for interrogation. Like, I think we should have brought it to the ground gently. Like, we should have. Though we did get some money's worth out of the F-22 finally.
Finally, it's done
Finally.
something, you know.
That's a small positive.
But yeah, I guess there's also like the U.S. government again, because they're protecting against you know, them looking at all the stuff anyway. They're like, we'll just kind of see what they're doing, and if they're transmitting weather stuff, okay. If they're doing like spying stuff, we'll just try to intercept the signals and decrypt them and figure stuff out. So it's just kind of better to like let it go most of the time. So for all the people like, you know, pounding the table, Joe Biden's letting China run all over us. All right, like the U.S. military has some of their own stuff going on, and there's a lot I don't trust about the U.S. military. But in this situation, it's like they have ways of being able to detect like if it were a nuclear weapon up there, like you can detect that from pretty far away.
Right.
They would see that. They assess whether or not it's a threat. You know, if it's a biological weapon, well, I guess they could drop it over, but shooting it down doesn't necessarily help. You know,
Yeah.
just disperses it in a different way. So
I get to where the most interesting piece of it was the amount of reaction to it. In that, I don't even know who saw it. I don't know how many people saw it, but like it was a balloon, man, and
yeah.
it wasn't loaded with nuclear weapons, and it may have had an explosive device on it to self-destruct it, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know.
But yeah, like the actual like pro-war people in this country are using that as an excuse to be like, this is why we should never have cut the military spending so deeply.
We
Like,
need to protect
what?
ourselves against China and their imminent incursion. Now that they have pictures from 12 miles up, they know all they need to know, Kevin. I'm skeptical, I guess.
We post it all on TikTok. Like, they don't need the balloons. It's all there.
Oh, everybody has. That's another thing. A lot of governors are now banning TikTok in their state for all of their state workers and on state-owned cell phones. So it's a net positive.
Suppose so. I mean, like they're doing some of that before. Like I get like it probably shouldn't be on like your state-owned device that you're like keeping and accessing sensitive information on. Yeah, fair. I get that. Like you probably shouldn't have many like regulated apps on there. Like you go to like the Google App Store and stuff's a mess there, right? Like it's you don't really know what you're getting a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I get that. That makes sense. Like banning it for like average people though, so stupid. So dumb. Like you should be careful about your own information, but
yeah, I don't know if they've done that yet, if they've gone that far. Like, did South Dakota ban it for every single resident of South Dakota, or was it just for its government phones?
With South Dakota, I don't remember what South Dakota did. There's some. Were they the one that won the ban TikTok presence? There was some state that wanted to do that. And no, they just did state-owned devices.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's honestly that's just reasonable, right? Like, hey, don't put your garbage apps on the phone we're giving you to use.
Yeah, and and a lot of federal government, they did that too. But yeah, again, the way I see that is like, well, you probably, unless you're managing the social media for the government account, you probably shouldn't have Facebook on your phone or Twitter on your phone either. Don't mess around on your phone. You could do that on your personal device.
It's a work tool for work. That's it. Don't have it on there. You don't have any rights to like that property, even if it is government given or granted or gifted, however you want to look at it.
It's just like,
it's not yours. You're getting a free cell phone. Deal with it. Make your calls. Don't even call personal. Don't even call your friends. Get your own phone for that.
It's important. Like I've had company laptops before. Like, yeah, you're not supposed to just download whatever onto the company laptops either. They don't
Exactly.
want
And I
that.
think that's a fair request, Bring your own laptop if you want to, do things that laptops do.
Yeah, right.
I- So, Kevin, how are we doing on time? Because I've got an
We
interest.
got like 6 minutes left if you
All right,
want
I've
to
got a
get
human
to.
interest story that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Let's talk about it.
if we got time for, and I think 6 minutes we might be able to break it down good enough. So, a young man that I know personally is a very proficient at wrestling, certainly a dedicated high achiever in the scholastic sport of wrestling, and he has his sights on a state championship. And guys, his mom packs his wrestling bag, goes into school. Somehow, for some reason, a school official searches his bag, finds a piece of equipment that is in violation of the school rules, no longer illegal, that belongs to his father, who has an issue with a health issue that uses this as a treatment for. And now this kid can't wrestle in the state tournament, can't even go to sectionals, 90-day suspension, no due process, no Fourth Amendment rights, just
Yeah.
seized and in violation of a school policy. And now, like, this kid's got a 4.0 plus average, a Ivy League wrestling potential, like Cornell wrestler. He's got this going for him. And this is a huge stain on this kid. And it's really, I don't know, what's your basic takeaway? People are going, hey, he should have followed the rules. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know, man. I'm not a
No,
big
it's
rule guy.
not a big rule guy. No, I tend to agree. It's like in most of these situations, especially as I understand the situation, you're hinting at what it is too. It's like, all right, wasn't really like his thing, and even if it was, like, oh man, like that stinks to ruin it. Like it's not something that impacts like performance in that same way, right? Like you're doing performance enhancing drugs, and that like messes with the outcome of like your match. Sure, right? Like
Sure.
that makes sense.
I
Some
think
of
we
the
get
other
that.
stuff,
I
it's
there's no to be clear, like none of the school officials are some of the people that wrote the report on this felt as though the kid was being truthful, that it belonged to his father, that it was mistakenly put in his bag, and but unfortunately, because there is a rule, we have to enforce it.
right. Yeah, and so like a lot of these organizations, stuff generally, like you get in these groups and people say, well, if we make this exception here, then when there is an actual violation of this rule, like it's going to end up getting messier because we made this exception this time. So it's easier to just say we're going to be consistent and regardless of extenuating circumstances, apply this rule, right?
Yeah.
Which is certainly an approach to take.
Well, it is an approach, but it is not an approach that most public schools take, because
No,
they are very ambivalent when it comes to certain students. And like, so good kids get punished to the fullest extent of the administrative rule body. And kids that are consistently in trouble oftentimes get a free pass.
yeah.
That's something from my own parenting history. That's reality.
No, I mean, sure, that's a thing. Is there's going to be inconsistent application of the rules, right? Like that's just what it is. And you're like, all right, do we let it slide this time? This kid's doing a little bit better, even though he's had a bad pass. So they may be like, let this one go with a warning. Oh, this person's never been in trouble. Let's scare him. So like he or she never does it. Like there's goofy stuff, and that kind of enforcement of the rules is what makes a lot of kids feel that like schools are a prison system. Now
In a
I don't say
way,
that with like glee or like exaggeration. That is how a lot of kids feel, and your school might be different. Not yours specifically, Tim, but
right.
like listeners out there, your school might be different, your kid's school might be different, but there are a lot of schools there where they got to apply those rules consistently, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how arbitrary. They're going to apply those, and even if that has consequences for the rest of that kid's life, now you're gonna do it. Well, we got to. Those are the rules. Sorry, out of my hands. Just
Yeah,
following
this
orders, whatever.
this is one of those things where this could potentially have consequences for the rest of this kid's life. Now, I think that his parents are. I want to say that his parents are very proactive. They certainly will get him other opportunities, but this is something that the violation of the question is, why did his bag get searched? Why? What?
Well,
There seems to be some.
students don't have the same rights that the rest of us do. They don't really have full Fourth Amendment rights. They don't really have full First Amendment rights.
They don't. That's
That's
true.
and that's like that. Adding to that prison metaphor, like I remember in my school, like they would bring in like dogs and whatnot to go search our lockers. Occasionally, it was just like a thing. They would, you know,
Yeah.
just bring
There
stuff
was-
around, try to find like weed or guns or whatever, they're trying to look for. They'd bring the dogs around and they could just open up your locker. You don't have a right to be secure in that space.
You don't have a right to privacy. You don't have a right to have a bag in school that is free from search and seizure by not even a trained law enforcement official. Just a teacher can be like,
teacher,
"Hey, this is what I found."
take your bag. Yeah, your bag is not protected from that. Like, and people will be like, oh, it's a safety thing. What if someone has a weapon? Where yeah, but like you don't. Yeah, the students don't have the same rights that adults do, and that's. I was gonna say for better or worse, but like for the most part, I think it's a bad thing that to train students in that mindset that they don't have the same rights that adults do.
It certainly makes them either angry or complacent, and either both of those things is a interference in their development as human beings, for sure.
Yeah,
I think. I don't know.
No, I agree. Well, yeah, you're not going to be in a pro freedom, pro liberty mindset if you're going to do that. You're either going to be bitter or complacent, as you said. But we do have to end the radio show now. We might be able to talk for a couple more minutes on the live stream, but thanks everyone who's listening to WYSL. We appreciate y'all being with us tonight. Have a wonderful night, folks. All right, and we're out on the radio show.
Yeah, so the parents offered this kid is he look, no kid is perfect, right? But this kid's pretty perfect. He's a polite, decent young man who trains. His goal, like he trains for his goal. This is not. He's earned the respect that he's getting, and the predictions that people are making. Like he's earned them. He's been wrestling as long as my kid, and I think even longer. Like, and I started my kid wrestling when he was like 6 years old. It's guys, I'm telling you what, if you have little kids and they have a streak of aggression in them, get them on a wrestling mat. It's an absolute blast. They have so much fun. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's good training. It's a great mindset. But yeah, the parents offered. They're like, let's test them. Let's just show you that this is what we're saying is true.
Yeah.
And they said that he violated the rules. So here's the prescribed remedy for violating this rule. Makes me sad.
Yeah,
that's reality.
That's a bummer. That's
I did have. Did I have? I lost it. I had a fake news thing, but I lost it.
Do you want to talk about how we're going to mandate chocolate milk across the country?
Oh my God, I hope so. Is that true?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll read the Lisa Stefanik, our congresswoman from up north there.
Right. Yeah, Albany area. She's pretty close to the Freedom variant.
Yeah, so up in the Adirondacks mostly, right? Her tweet: The fight to #Save Chocolate Milk continues. Proud to propose a federal law that would require all schools to offer flavored milk. School kids deserve access to nutritious and delicious milk options that our dairy farmers work hard to provide.
Well,
how do you feel about mandatory chocolate milks?
I don't feel good about mandatory anything, but if you're gonna mandate something, I guess it might as well be chocolate milk.
It's not the worst thing the government has mandated, but
no. And look, like they vitamin D, man, the kids need it, especially this time of year. It's good for them.
No, I mean, I guess there's like kind of a health push in like New York City, I guess, to like maybe like phase out some of the like sugar added chocolate milk stuff.
Sure. I'm sympathetic to that. There is
Yeah.
Guys, really good chocolate milk like has like 400 calories for every 8 ounces. Like, the Hershey stuff that you buy.
Yeah,
I
like it's delicious. It is not good for you.
no,
And I
no.
say this as someone who had like chocolate milk like almost every day from like kindergarten on up, right? Like it's
I have a I have a funny story about chocolate milk, right? Like I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, right? And I was still kind of health conscious and I want to make sure I was getting the right amount of calories and stuff. So I go get my $6 lunch and I would get a quart of chocolate milk with it. I'm like, milk's got to be better than whatever. And I read it, it's like, yeah, 300 calories, and it's a whole quart of milk. And I'm like, all right, cool. So with my lunch, I would drink like a quart of milk and eat a sub. And I'm like, man, all right, about 2 weeks of this, I did this about 2 weeks straight. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I think I just gained like 15 pounds. I, in like about 2 weeks, and I read the milk carton again, and I'm like, it's actually 1,200 calories at
I'm about to
least
say
for
like
this
there's several
quart of
servings
chocolate
in
milk.
there, right?
Yeah, I was like, wow, that was
Yeah,
bad. So I had
that's
to
how you
cut
get. You gotta see how many servings per container it is.
300 calories per serving, and I think the servings might have been 6 ounces, so it was probably like 1,400 calories for that quart of milk, like all at one shot in the middle of the day. Like it put fat on me so fast, I didn't
No,
even
yeah,
realize.
no, it'll do that. It's actually a really great like running recovery drink. Like it sounds ridiculous, but like if you go run like 8 miles, like a cold glass of chocolate milk immediately afterwards is the best thing ever. I'm
Running
not
eight
kidding it.
miles. That sounds insane. What is that? That's
Yeah,
masochism, brother. Who does
yeah.
that?
It's,
Did
it's
you used to
I
do that?
no, I did not just do that. I have been less great about running since my son was born. So,
Sure. No, I've
but
been
I used to I used to do that like pretty frequently. I was training for a half marathon, and you know that after a run, like you do like a protein shake or like a big glass of chocolate milk. It's good, and I'm gonna agree with Patricia here. Burn Dairy is the best chocolate milk. Man, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I do like the
I
Burn
do.
Dairy.
Yeah, chocolate milk is good. I used to
We
drink
had
a
we had a
lot.
we had a chocolate milk vending machine. It was like a Burn Dairy vending machine in my school.
Oh
We
my
had the
god,
chocolate
that's
milk,
great.
the whole milk, and the strawberry milk. Because they didn't want to do like soda vending machines. Like the soda stuff was like restricted, and they would only turn it on for like basketball games. And then so you had like a Gatorade vending machine, a milk vending machine that was turned on all the time, and then like a soda machine that like would only be on like after hours.
I do have a collection of rodent predictions.
All right.
This could be important, right? Like Phil, the OG groundhog, he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Jimmy, the groundhog, actually got put in a
Jimmy.
pot after he bit the mayor of Sun Prairie in the ear in 2015. Um, Milltown Mel got caught up with problems with state law this year after the previous prognosticator expired. Woody the woodchuck emerged from a tiny green door in a human-made tree stump on Thursday. No real predictions. Waffle House Will saw his shadow and immediately tried to fight it and is up against 6 more weeks of probation.
Love it.
That was pretty good, right? Like that was built right up to that.
There you go. The full set of predictions.
Yes. 6 more weeks
Um
of probation. 6 more weeks of probation.
wow.
Well, I don't know.
And we got Thomas here making jokes in the comment section. Found out from a patient that diarrhea is hereditary. It's in your genes.
It's in, yeah, it is.
Oh.
This could be the most important question of the evening. Is there a Waffle House in New York City or New York?
Oh,
I don't think so.
no, Patricia, there is no Waffle Houses in New York.
It's just like they fight Chick-fil-A's, they fight Waffle Houses.
I mean, I feel like we got a bunch of Chick-fil-A's now in New York.
Do you?
Including the Thruway stop. They're putting them there, remember?
Nice. I didn't know that.
I know. I'm kind of mad about that one because they're closed on Sundays, which is usually the day I'm traveling.
Yeah, they could be a little unfair. I could get that.
That's any other controversy around them aside, that they're being closed on Sunday is not a great place for a travel stop.
Not a great look for the throughway.
Yeah.
You cannot have food on Sunday.
No, but no, you're gonna have to go down south for Waffle House, which I haven't been to one in a while. I mean, now you just get you can do Denny's up here. Like, you know, that's the best place to go if you want breakfast food and a fight at 2 a.m. Denny's. That's the spot.
Denny's is one of my favorites. Always the food is always consistent there.
You know, you know what to expect.
You do.
I can say that about that. And Patricia says humans are the only creatures who continue drinking milk once weaned. Yeah, it's true. We got fancy genes for it. Well, at least some people do. Not everyone does.
Yeah, it's funny because guess what? Before 1900, their milk was not a mass consumed product. There was like a whole regulatory environment that got created around the milk industry.
We subsidized the heck out of it now.
They did. They
got
did
milk campaigns and all this stuff.
So
government cheese.
That's how government.
He said, "No, the U.S. It sounds like a joke, but the U.S. has like caves and caves and caves full of cheese because the U.S. like guarantees milk to be sold at a certain price, and so they'll buy up this milk at a certain price for some folks, and you end up with government subsidized cheese. So they just keep storing it.
I love it. I'm gonna if and when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm finding one of those caves.
Yeah, you find them cheese caves. That's where to go.
One. I will be the cheese king of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward.
And that's smart. There's this is a book of short stories that Andrew Heaton wrote. And one of them is about like the economics of the zombie apocalypse. And the main protagonist, the first thing she does is she goes and raids like a tobacco store. She goes gets all the cigarettes, tries to get all the cigarettes in town that she can.
I like it. That's another good one I'd go after. I'd probably go to a pharmacy too with full force. Like I would go to a pharmacy and try to take it and own it forever. Absolutely critical to our current way of life for sure.
Yeah. Pharmacy is a good one. Cigarettes, understandable. I think in this story, like she went after cigarettes because she figured no one else would think of that, but people would start to miss them in a few weeks. And then eventually negotiates like one cigarette for one bullet from people who had a different take on the items to go after.
There's a balance there. The people that can trade effectively would be very successful in the zombie apocalypse.
Economics is everywhere.
The economics of it.
Tim's plan is to become big pharma, Patricia.
I would be big pharma. I would be big pharma in my neighborhood anyway. So that's real.
That's real. All right. Do you have any other fake news or
no? But man, I had a blast tonight. That was great. Yeah. And you made it through the show, Kevin. I think everybody should know how heroic your performance is tonight.
It's injured. I injured my instrument here. I was telling Tim about this before the show. I pulled a muscle in my neck. I pulled a muscle in my throat. I sneezed weird. And like I did this like last Thursday. I was like, oh man, like that kind of hurt. That was weird. I sneezed on Saturday, and then like suddenly it felt like I got punched in the throat. Like I could not talk. I could not like drink water. I felt like I was starting to have trouble breathing. I went to the urgent care, and he's like, yeah, man, you just pulled a muscle in your throat. So it was swelling up a little bit and pushing against my esophagus and like against like the ear tubes that run down here. I was like, oh, man, how did I hurt myself in such a dumb way? It's like, oh, you're getting old.
That's just the way it is. Sorry.
But it's just the way it is. Pull the muscle in my throat by sneezing. Like what dumb way to injure myself. So last couple of days, like I've been like having trouble talking for a long time. But I made
got through it tonight pretty good.
I did. Yeah.
I did feel free to go on extra long rants though. So just got to give your throat a rest.
I just let you go on.
Yeah. You were like,
except for the MK, you're like, all right, let's talk about
get
MK
away with
Ultra
tonight. He can have it tonight. That's it.
Yeah. This is your opportunity, Tim.
Yeah, man.
But
Anyway,
all right.
guys, like I like the anti-war machine. I like the points that Rage Against the Rage Against the War Machine. I like the concept. Kevin made some great points. We can't just be pro-Russia. We have to be anti-war. Like that's a better way to be. That's my closing thoughts for tonight.
This is important. Apply those principles consistently. And listen, I'm not against the idea of a rally, but we got to make sure we're being consistent on it and doing the best we can to spread that anti-war message, because it's very, very important.
Yeah. I love their list of demands for the most part. I thought that was pretty excellent. Maybe unrealistic, but I loved it.
It's pretty good, wasn't there? But all right. Well, we should call it a night, though. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Always appreciate the engagement, the comments that we're getting tonight. Take care.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.